Hi, it's Jennifer from Advocating for the Aging, the business and website that is totally devoted to keeping older adults safe in their homes and out of the hospital. So thank you so much for joining me for episode 3 of the Dollar Tree haul. I went to the Dollar Tree with the sole purpose of looking for items for $1 each that would help older adults be safer in their homes, more independent, and able to do things with maybe a little bit of a modification. So check out the first 2 episodes of that if you haven't already seen them, but here's episode 3. And today we're going to talk about some different items, but also some modifications that can be made using those items. So we'll just dive right in, starting with 2 tools that I found at the Dollar Tree. The first was a nail clipper and file set. I've already unwrapped them, so sorry you can't see the packaging. And then the second is a simple clipboard. So there's a couple things you could do here, specifically for someone who doesn't have really good use of both hands. Maybe they've got debilitating arthritis, or maybe they've had a stroke and so they've got one side that's very weak. You could actually put the clippers in the spring-loaded hinge thingy at the top of the clipboard. And then you could glue the files down somewhere on the surface of the clipboard. So that way you have a nice flat surface. You can put your finger in the clipper. And then if this hand doesn't work well for, really having dexterity to manage these small pieces, you could use the palm of your hand or even kind of your wrist to get the pressure needed to cut the nail. And if there's some shaping or smoothing that's necessary, these files would be stuck down, and I'm holding it because I didn't glue it yet, but the files would be stuck and you could do a little bit of filing. So I hope that's really helpful for you. I thought that was a pretty cool tool. I think it will help a lot of people, so give it a shot. Now, next we're going to talk about how to use a simple $1 pool noodle for some different things that would help an older adult. So this used to be a little longer. I've cut a bit off, but this was a $1. It's just a plain old pool noodle with a little hole in the middle. And the first thing I'm going to show you is how to create a card holder for someone who maybe wants to play cards with their family, but they're not able to hold a bunch of cards in one or both hands, and they need a little bit of help. So I'm just going to cut about 1 inch off the end of this, and I'll tell you, it would be a bit easier if I had a little longer knife, because my blade doesn't quite go deep enough, so I'm kind of tearing a little bit. It's creating a little jagged edge, but it's fine. If you want it to look nicer though, use a little, like a kitchen knife. So I've got this little tube here I've created, and then I'm just gonna cut a slice right through the middle for 180 degrees around. So just a little slice right there. I don't know if you can see that, but it pulls open. It goes maybe a ½ inch in. And so then what you could do if you're helping someone who doesn't have that good hand dexterity, you could stick their cards in here for them. And then they can hold a full card hand in one hand and kind of pick and choose what cards they want. So that's one option. I'm going to actually show you one other way to do this, because being able to play with your family and do card games and things like that, that's really important. Even if this seems a little silly, being able to participate in community is so important. So this time I did the same thing, but I made this one more like 7 inches. It's still the whole circle, but now what I'm going to do is cut it basically in half. So on both ends I'm cutting all the way through. And I'm just, for time's sake, I'm going to kind of tear this since I can't make a cut all the way through with my short little blade. And then I'm going to do the same thing here on this end. And try not to cut myself in the process. Okay, so I'm throwing away one. And now what I've got here is half of the cylinder that can lay flat. Especially it would be able to lay flat if this wasn't so jagged, because I tore it if I used a better knife. But then I'm going to cut a slice right through the top all the way across. And then this is just a different method for holding the cards, where you could stick more in there and you don't actually have to be holding them at all. This could just be sitting in front of you at your tabletop. So got my hand in front of me there. Now, if the person couldn't hold their hand on it to keep it still, you could actually tape it down or glue it down or somehow adhere it to the surface so they could just pull one card out at a time. So anyway, pretty handy. Check it out. Now, we're going to talk about a couple of other uses for the pool noodle. Actually, these are both kind of related to someone who's had a stroke. The first one is to build up a handle on their walker. If they're not able to firmly grasp their walker handle, you could actually build it up using this pool noodle. So just like before, I'm going to cut off the whole piece around here, tear it. I'm going to cut a slice all the way through like I did for my card holder. I'm going to tear that open. And then I'm just going to place this over the handle of my walker. Now, to make it actually stay long term, you could use tape or straps, but there it allows me to grasp with a pretty open hand. If someone has enough grip to be able to use it, but not enough to be able to get a tight grip on this skinny little handle. So that's a simple solution, at least something to try. So I'd encourage you to try it. Okay, our last pool noodle use that again is kind of specifically for someone with a stroke is to make sort of a modified hand splint. I'm going to cut off a little bit of the length like I did before. Now for someone who maybe has a contracture from their stroke where their hand is kind of like this, like they're sort of here, if they need some kind of a hand splint and maybe they're not doing therapy anymore, they don't have a splint, this could be a useful tool, or just something to try to see if an actual splint might be useful. So, okay, their hand is stuck here, you want it to be more here. This can be useful. So you can form their fingers around the tube. Now it's not gonna stay, but then what you could do is use some simple Velcro that I also purchased at the Dollar Tree and create a little bit of a strap for it. Now, I want to point out, I'm giving you this idea as something to try, but if I wouldn't let this be the final say on what's happening here, because if you place the hand incorrectly or like you're using these Velcro straps in a way that's damaging the skin, I certainly wouldn't want to tell you to do that and then have nobody helping to make sure that it's all working appropriately. So you can try it, but make sure that a therapist, occupational or physical, is looking over your work and making sure that you're achieving the goals you want to achieve and that we're not causing any skin breakdown or anything like that. So I'm just gonna see what I can rig up here with some Velcro, but so we'll do the noodle in the hand. I'm gonna fish this Velcro through the hole in the middle. That hole is pretty handy. And then we can try some different ways to get this adjusted on the hand so that it stays. I haven't put a lot of thought into this. I think I could figure out something better on a real person depending on the size of their hand and everything, but you get the idea. So, option number 3 for a pool noodle, a hand splint. Okay, couple more things. The next thing we're going to talk about is the kind of some gripper pads. These are actually called gripper pads. From Cooking Concepts is the brand. I'm just going to open these up, and they can actually be used for a couple different things. The typical thing that you've probably seen them used for, or maybe even used it yourself, is as a gripper pad to open a jar or something like that, where you get a little bit more friction, and it's really pretty useful for that. But it can be used for some other things too, like building up a small tool, like let's say a pen. You can use this to wrap around the tool. You could tape it on if you wanted it to stay, but then it allows someone to have a firmer grip with a little more tackiness to it so they can hold on to it a little better. You could do that for a pen or a paintbrush or makeup tool, anything like that. The other thing it can be really useful for is keeping something still on a flat surface. So let's say this was like a little TV tray or a table even. It's a clipboard, but use your imagination. And let's say we had a plate on it that has been kind of sliding around. Well, if you put this down, that can help it to stay steady. Keep somebody from pushing their plate away from them if they have some, I don't know, Parkinson's or something that they don't have good control and they're pushing it away. So Again, it can be used for opening, building up, and keeping things still on their flat surface. Great, so one more thing we're gonna talk about, let me back up to say, the gripper and this tray, actually, which we're gonna talk about more in a second, are from the Dollar Tree as well. So just $1 each. And then the last thing we're gonna talk about is with the walker. So I've got a tray on this walker for someone who needs to be able to transport food or drinks or whatever. And so I really kind of like this tray because it has different spaces for different foods and utensils and things like that. So you could use your gripper pad to keep it still on there, or they even have at the Dollar Tree like the shelf liners, the non-slip shelf liners, which have a couple of uses. But in our case, we'll just put this down on our tray, which is going to provide even a little bit more friction than the gripper pad I showed you because it's going to cover the whole surface. And of course, you could cut this to any size you wanted. I'm going to just, okay, I'm not going to cut it yet, but I'll just kind of demonstrate. Let's say we cut out just the size of the tray there, which let's try this differently. I'm going to do like that. And so then my tray can go down and it's nice and sturdy. It's not sliding around anywhere. If I have food on it and I'm actually transporting it to my chair, it's not going to go sliding. So I hope that's really helpful for you. We've got the tray, the shelf liner, the grippers, the nail clippers and the file used in conjunction with the clipboard, and then the foam, the noodle, which can be used for multiple different things. So I hope that something in your imagination is sparking of how you could use this for yourself or a loved one. I'd love it if you'd share this with anyone else that you think might benefit. And definitely check out advocatingfortheaging.com for tons more tips and tricks just like these that you've learned today. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a great day.